Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And once again, Edwana Larkin, she has an outstanding guest. We're dealing with the Fraternal Order of Police as large 2F from D.C. And the young man is from Maryland, but he's here. His name is... what is that? That's Harris Cummings Jr.
Yes, sir.
I tell you, and he's the president of this organization, and he's been on here before. See, if you have been watching, you know, see, I've seen that guy before. But anyway, Harris, tell us a little bit about the Fraternal Order of Police. I mean, how did you get involved in that? You know, that's a volunteer organization, isn't it?
Yes, sir. All of our members are volunteers. We have retired police officers. We have reserve military people, reserve metropolitan police officers, a lot of federal police officers that have joined the organization.
Okay, when was it founded, President Cummings?
It was founded in 1975 by federal law enforcement officers up at VA Hospital.
Oh, okay.
What was the purpose of it? I mean, you're trying to get more money or more time or less work?
Well, mostly what it is we taking interest in the civic and social and the moral welfare of the community. Mm-hmm. We try to help with doing clothes drives, dinners for Thanksgiving and Christmas, things like that.
When you have these different programs in which Edwana is part of, tell us what are some of the duties of those different committees?
Well, we have one of the committees, we do raffle tickets. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we try to make enough money for the scholarship.
Oh, very important.
Yes, that's one of the main things is our scholarship fund. We try to get enough money together and have a dinner for the scholarship kids and stuff. Try to get kids to come in and give them amount of money, and you know, we have a guest speaker and talk to them.
That type of thing, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Edwana, you on this scholarship committee? Tell us
Yes,
a little bit about it now.
I have served since the 90s as scholarship chair for FOP, and I'm proud to say that President Cummings is a sincere and he has an integrity, and he governs his meetings with the utmost of respect for us, the members of this organization. He's always considerate, and he's able to allocate the funds to the various students who apply for the FOP scholarship.
What's the procedure for applying for scholarships?
Well, they have to fill out an application. The application is online. They have to have 3 letters of recommendation, and they also have to write an essay, and they need to have a 2.0 cumulative average. And we're willing to help any young student who wants to further their education. And President Cummings, he's going to tell us the different officers that he has in the organization. I'm the scholarship chair, but how is it actually set up? You have the president and vice president,
the treasurer, secretary. We have the guard.
What's a guard, President Cummings? What does
he's
that
the
mean?
person who permits only qualified personnel to enter into the meeting place.
Okay.
And then we have the conductor, and the conductor is the one who guides all candidates through the initiation of a ceremony, and then he introduce the members.
Initiation? What kind of initiation is that?
They just ask a lot of questions to make sure that their sincerity about working with us, because
they have qualifications.
Qualifications, yes, sir. And it's just that to make sure that they understand we're not a union. We're just an organization that's trying to help the community. A lot of us go out and talk to kids in churches, at schools, and tell them about law enforcement, about jobs in law enforcement, some jobs in military and things of that nature. That's what we go out and do.
Well, I'm glad to see the scholarship committee is functioning because
Yes.
kids really need that.
Yes, sir.
What other programs do you have, to bring you closer to the youth? Because the youth are, they have problems domestically. They have all sorts of different problems with the police all over the country.
Well, you go and talk. The last thing I did, I talked to some kids at a church, and explained to them about how they should react and how they should listen to their parents, how the jails are, and they don't want to go to jail because if you listen to your parent,
Absolutely.
then that's the thing that helps you the greatest. And your church, your organization with your church helps. You got people in the church that helps these young people. But along with that, I've had a brother who was incarcerated. I had him along with me, and he started telling them about jail, and it took a notice to them. Some of them, their eyes got open. Oh no, I don't want to do this. So now they'll listen to their parents.
So, okay, well, what other programs you have for the future? I know as president, you're looking far ahead to, improve your organization.
Well, hopefully we can try to bring the youth in with us, maybe at some of the meetings, and talk to them there. Again, like I said, going out and talking to the young people. I haven't got anything set yet until our next meeting is April the 17th. And then I'm going to talk to the committee about different things that we need to do with fundraisers and get out to the youth, be able to grab the young people, maybe take them on a trip somewhere, and let them understand
Right.
this is law enforcement,
I think
this is what we do.
Take them on a trip to jail is a good one because
Yeah, scared straight.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
People could talk about how bad it is, but when they have an opportunity to tour the incarcerated
The institution.
individuals, this will really enlighten them. Well, what about the difference in male and female? Most of the time the news is you're dealing with males. What about the female?
Right now, the females are fighting just as much as the males
Right.
are. On buses, at school, in the school, in the neighborhood. That's what we see a lot of on the news. Females are just as bad as the young men are.
So
why
as
is
an
it-
organization, we give back because a lot of our members were mentors
Right.
to some of the young people at the various schools between Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Virginia. And then, as President Cummings said, and I will reiterate, we're in the churches, and we're making a difference in our youth programs at the church. So as adults, we try to give back because we know that it's important to give back. And we help to raise your children. The old cliche, it takes a village to raise the children. So that's what we're doing.
What do you think is the increase with the young ladies getting involved?
Well, I think we mentioned it before. It's almost like a role reversal. Young women are acting more masculine these days. So they take on that persona of the male. So I think, that has a lot to do with it. Sad to say, because you do want your young girls to be ladies and to be feminine, but I think the roles have sort of like turned.
It's changed. Well, what do you think that parents can do? They're with the youngsters. Both
parents
could answer this, President Cummings and Edwana.
Okay.
What are some of the things that advice you want to give parents?
Parents really need to watch their kids as far like on computers, where they go out and stuff. Because now there's a lot of gangs in D.C. They call them crews, and you got maybe 7 or 8 kids that's in a certain block area. Now they figure this is their property, and it's not their property, territory. So now they want to fight for something that's not theirs.
No.
And that's what happens. And now you got the girls, they're having gangs also, or crews, as some of them are called. And that's what hurts our young people now, especially when you're on that computer and they stay on that computer for so long.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
you've heard it from the president of the Fraternal Order Police there, President Cummings, and also Edwana. We talked about things that are very important, and that's your children. And remember, always, always take care of your children. They're first. And participate in all of these programs at school and with the police.
Yes.
See you in a second. Hi, welcome back to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And we have Marion Kahn here. Well, Marion has been on the show before. I mean, dynamic in digital photographs. And she has an outstanding group of pictures here to just show you. She's doing it for everybody in the Washington metropolitan area. Marion, tell us more about your digital processing.
Thank you for having me on the show again. And I have a business called Digital Photos by Ria, where I actually offer nationwide coverage for destination weddings as well as travel for fashion photography and all types of photography. Mainly, I have clientele based in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area and going all over the East Coast as far up as
Is that
New
right?
England.
Congratulations, right?
Thank you. And I just recently took it where I'm doing it nationwide. So I do weddings, band photography for up-and-coming musicians in the past, vocalists, rappers, artists of all types, events, and then I also do art exhibits of my nature and architecture work from travel photography as well. I've got a lot of photographs in Europe, from Italy, and just all over the world.
Is that right? What about you have a training period too, don't you? You train young photographers?
Yes, actually, I am doing one-on-one workshops with
yes, that's what I wanted to
people
hear.
in the community who've contacted me, who knew me from high school and said, well, I always had a hobby of photography, and I want to learn more about digital photography and how to shoot as a professional. And I always tell them it's about shooting on manual mode and getting away from using the flash on auto mode.
Is that right?
Yes,
Tell us
it
about
is.
that. I want a guy to use the manual mode. And or either.
So you want to learn about your f-stop, which is your
Yeah,
aperture, and how
right.
to set your shutter speed
Now,
for the
what
lighting you have available to you.
How do you get that information unless you go to one of your workshops?
Well, you can just look up the information on your manual that comes with your camera. As
The manual, nobody reads the manual. Once you buy it, you know, you shoot.
That's true.
It.
That's true. A lot of people don't want to read the manual, but there is free information available on websites where you can do a general search on any type of major search engine and just search how to shoot photography on manual mode, and you'll get websites that give you step-by-step instructions.
Yeah, the website. What about the most of the cameras now have automatic?
They
And,
do.
okay,
Well, the
now,
automatic is the feature that was always around, even back in the days of film
that right?
photography. Your camera was shooting automatic with autofocus, but now
Autofocus, yeah.
autofocus. Now with the digital SLR cameras, you have the digital single lens reflex lens, and when you put that in auto, it gives you a better auto focus than just a point-and-shoot camera. Meaning a point-and-shoot camera, you don't have a lot of depth with your zoom, and you don't have the ability to manually manipulate your f-stop and your shutter speed.
Well, the f-stop and the shutter speed, what happens with that is that determines your environment. Whatever the lighting
Exactly.
environment
how much light you want to capture.
Yeah,
that's
how much light
available.
you want to, and what's available. Sometimes the light is not available. You have to make
You
adjustments.
have to make adjustments. You have to kind of
on
manipulate without editing.
Yeah.
Before the editing.
on your camera.
So you can set your f-stop such that you're capturing more light than what's actually available that you're seeing with your bare eye, because it's picking up on everything, the highlights and the lowlights. When you get more into technical terms of digital editing, there's a lot of other processes such as hue, saturation, where you're dealing with how much you're seeing of a certain specific color, and you can figure fine point with almost like a needle with the digital editing of what color you want picked
Well,
up
actually,
more.
going to digital that really saved the people like me and a few others.
A lot of money on film.
A lot of money on film, and then making mistakes. For instance, if you're shooting something, what's the best way to do? And shoot 4 or 5 shots and say, well, out of 5, I should have one good one.
I would say you
how
can
do you
shoot 3 shots in horizontal or vertical and another 2 2 shots in horizontal or vertical, so that you have, out of those 5 shots, you're probably going to have 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 that are good shots.
Yeah,
And then
right.
if you can figure out later if you want to print it for your own gallery, for your own work of art in your home, if you want to print it vertically or horizontally, depending on how you want to display it when people come into your home as guests and how they view it on your wall.
And then what you get involved in is your own lighting. You carry
Yes.
now the different
Studio lighting.
the studio lighting. Now, generally, if you cover affairs, you can't control that.
No, if you're shooting on location photography, you're not going to be walking around with your own lights, but you will have your own expensive set of flash, which now is more commonly referred to as speed lights. So the speed lights are such that they're not constantly blinding people with the old flash, with the old cameras that were around for a long time, some of the bigger brand names. But depending on what you're shooting, there's sets of different types of speed lights.
Yeah,
that
but
you can use.
what happens though with the speed lighting, if in fact the lighting change, like for instance, the way the light is mounted,
if you go from
right,
an indoor
And
environment with
but-
a highlight to a low evening light
Right.
because they dim the lights,
They
your
dim-
camera will pick up on that. All you have to do is do a couple of clicks on your shutter speed and your f-stop if you're capturing any kind of motion with light. The other issue is motion. So as soon as there's
Yeah.
a little bit of motion, if you're on the wrong shutter speed,
Yeah.
you're going to get blur.
Blur,
You're just going to get,
right.
unless you're going for a deliberate blurry capture of traffic lights at dusk of the building's lights coming on, where you're doing like a skyline or nature, not a nature, but a landscape. You don't want that blurriness. So then you have to adjust your camera, not just for the lighting, but also to compensate in a low light situation to not have constant blur and not have what they call the pixelation in the picture. So you can have a clear image.
But okay, but what happens with that if you were in a stadium or auditorium, place like that, and no one is standing still waiting for you to take a shot?
Yes.
In other words, you have to be alert. Because
Yeah, you have to be alert, and you
Yeah.
have to have a higher power digital camera, such as what you have here, and then you just set it to the being able to capture the maximum amount of motion. There's settings on your camera for that.
Yeah, well, there's setting on there for like sports, set on for weddings.
Yeah,
and
you
they-
can use those, or you can again go into manual mode and take your shutter speed.
Well, the pros all go to manual mode. The
pros go to manual mode.
They don't use the amateurs use the settings
Right.
on the camera like
Right,
they said.
well, even in I would say the pros, even in low light conditions, even the pros are going to have to use speed lights and flash, and they might have to go into auto mode. In very low light conditions where you need image stabilization to get the best picture, you have to shoot on a tripod. At that point, you can go ahead.
All right.
Yep, in
Yeah.
indoor low light conditions or in outdoor night photography, and you can go ahead and.
So the tripod
use
is the key.
The tripod is key
for stability.
for stability, because no matter how still you hold your hands, even if you hold your breath when you press the camera button, you're going to have a little bit of shake in your hand, and to eliminate that, to get the best picture possible, whether you need the flash or not, you're going to use the tripod.
But in doing that, wouldn't you, for instance, if you're shooting and like I said, action
Photography. On that, you're probably not going to have a tripod because you're constantly going to be moving
right.
around trying
But-
to capture the image.
Yeah, but what happens with that too is that you're trying to capture the image, and then somebody walks across in front of you.
Right, and that's why you take multiple images, multiple shots.
That's the idea of taking. Well, you find with digital, I was an old fan of the film. I said a real photographer shoots film
with film.
because he has one shot.
Yeah.
With digital, well, you shoot
And
4 or 5
in
times.
journalistic photography, people who are still photographing for newspapers, people who are war photographers, people who are they're doing publishing with magazines and layout spreads, newspapers, they're still shooting in film. They're
Yeah.
still doing darkroom processing. They're still shooting with like
they're
big
still shooting
platform
in film.
cameras.
Is that right?
They still are. It's still being taught. It's never, I don't think, going to be obsolete because we haven't had a lot of newspapers move into purely digital photography where people are only shooting with DSLR cameras, so they still are using the film, and they still need to know about the ISO and everything that goes with what speed film to use to capture different types of photography.
Because the higher the film number, the better the shot would be.
The better the shot could be in all different
It
types
was
of multiple
800,
lighting conditions.
800 and 1600.
But when you're shooting at night in lower light conditions, the lower speed ISO films do better than 800. But 800 is more for like very bright sunny conditions, and then 400 is either or in between.
What about 1600?
1600, you know, I haven't had a lot of experience with people
No.
shooting in 1600 film because back in my day it was just 800 was the max, and then people
Yeah.
started switching over
Right.
to digital. And I do exclusively digital photography because I'm dealing more with weddings and events and you know, that type of photography where I want to be able to capture the lowlights and the highlights during sunset and sunrise in nature photography where I'm exhibiting my art, and I want to be able to blow it up to 16 by 20, 20 by 30.
Okay. You have photo there. Tell us about it.
This photo is one that I did a number of years back for a musician who actually needed affordable photography at the time for being somebody who was
You get
a
into
talent that was still emerging.
Yeah, you get into poses and things like that.
Yes,
Angles
so I was
and that.
utilizing, let me just show the picture here
Yeah.
again, natural sunlight in an outdoor location in front of, you know, for his image, he wanted a more rustic,
Okay.
dilapidated
Okay.
approach where there was some graffiti on the walls and, you know, basketball hoops falling apart
That's
and this
fantastic.
kind of fences.
It's great to have you back on the show again.
Thank
And the terrific job you did for Dr. Williams. He was telling me about it. So, I mean, you really want to know something about photography, you know, give Marion a call there. She is terrific. I mean, if you got something that's difficult, see Marion. See you next time.